So, hey there, guys. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening to wherever you guys are. So, it's James from ProSpark again today with our CEO Alfa Bumhira here to talk about, some really interesting facts. So, our topic for today, this is a podcast, ProSpark Shorts, episode 2. And we just wanted to talk a little bit about entrepreneurship in Southeast Asia and the difference that it has as compared to, a few other regions. So, Alpha, you have a very, very interesting background, something that most people can't really say. So you were born in Africa. You had your education, master's as well in the United States. And then for some reason, you built your company all the way in Southeast Asia. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Hey, James. So thank you very much for taking the time again to speak with me today. It's always great for us to share more about ProSpark and my personal experience throughout the journey. So it was by coincidence that I ended up in Southeast Asia, and I'm still here 3 years later. I came here only for 8 days to visit my brother in Singapore. And then when I got to Singapore, I said, I want to see Southeast Asia. So I started to backpack across the region, went to Bali, went to Manila, Chiang Mai, Bangkok, and I fell in love with the region. A lot of young people, a lot of digital innovation going on. The whole energy in the whole entrepreneurship spaces is really vibing. And I just saw a big opportunity of whereby how we can become something special with with the ongoing trends in Southeast Asia. So yeah, it was, I didn't leave United States to move to Southeast Asia, but I just came here and suddenly I fell in love with it. And here we are, we're still here. And now we're building ProSpark in Southeast Asia.
That's actually pretty crazy because when I go on vacation, the last thing that I want to think about is work. So how does that work with you? So do you always, whenever you end up in a new place, do you always have this entrepreneurial mindset? You're always thinking about what's something I can do, or did it just come out of a moment? Was it just a random surprise that happened?
I think it's a good question, right? So I think my life story speaks for itself. I've always been an explorer, right? So being raised in Africa, moved to the United States by myself, live in the US now for 20-something years, and now starting, building something in Southeast Asia. So I've always been an explorer, somebody who's an outside thinker, always looking to solve different problems, always looking for different gaps to fill in with different ideas. But of course, I'm a human being. It doesn't necessarily mean that when I go to Bali, for example, for holiday, I'm always thinking about how to solve another next problem, right? So sometimes you need to take a break. But I think, of course, if your brain is already wired to think that way, even if you have, you actually take a holiday, you always fall back on those things. Like, hey, anytime you look at something, how can we make it better? Because I'm an engineer by background, so maybe possibly it's just because that's the way I am, right? So engineers are like that. So it could be. I don't know. What do you think?
It's a little bit rough to say because for me, the first thing that comes to my mind when I visit another country is food, obviously. And is that one of the is that one of the reasons you stayed? Because the food in Southeast Asia is just it's good. It's good.
Yeah, it's amazing.
All right. And then also tying in food, an adventure, like you mentioned earlier, I think that's a lot about building a business, right? There has to be a sense of adventure because a lot of people talk about business, it's cold, it's calculated, but a lot of it is just not knowing what's going to happen next, right? And then you talk a lot about your attitude of backpacking all the way in Southeast Asia. That takes a lot of adventurousness. Does that help a lot in being an entrepreneur?
Absolutely. I think being an entrepreneur really, it's all about navigating the complexities of the unknown, because the journey of building a company is not easy. Mm-hmm. And also the journey of going to different places you've never been, with different languages, different foods, different weather, different time zone, different people. Mm-hmm. It's different and it's also difficult. So the question is, how do you assimilate in such an environment? It's the same thing as starting a business. If people have never started a business, the first thing they have a lot of fear, how am I going to be able to hire people? How am I going to be able to pay people?
Mm-hmm.
Of course, everybody has some form of an uncomfortable feeling when you start a new venture, right? For ProSpark, of course, we didn't know where to start. Should we start it in Indonesia? Should we launch it in the Philippines? Should we do Vietnam? Should we do Singapore? Should we do United States? So we went through all those initial checks and balances to understand exactly where the market is. So part of that is, that's the same thing as when you want to travel. Sometimes you don't know where you want to go. And when you go there, you don't even know what you want to do. So it takes some time, a careful research and planning, understanding the different dynamics in the different places you want to go. And that kind of gives you, a moral compass. It doesn't necessarily mean that once you really feel like, oh, I've got to this destination, this is the end of it, I'm going to stay forever, things will change. Maybe you get bored. Maybe there's a weather issue in that venue, and then you have to go to a different place. It's the same thing as the journey of building ProSpark. Whatever we started with is not the same one we have today. The company is growing bigger, and we had to adapt and be flexible to change with the growing demand of the market.
Wow. All right. So if I was someone who doesn't really have this adventuring mindset, let's say I'm a small-time entrepreneur, and then I just wanted to start a business, what's the best advice that you can give me?
Yeah, I think it's simple. Work on something that you have. So focus on something you really have an interest, and something you might not call it a work. It's a hobby, something you can do it even on Sunday night at 2 in the morning, in the middle of the night. And you feel like, okay, I'm just answering a phone call or talking to a partner in Brazil. That's the most important thing. So I think the challenges of entrepreneurship is less about how to hire people, how to raise capital, because at the end of the day, if you really spend upfront time in understanding the problem you're really trying to solve and how that problem is evolving in the market, and who else has done it, tried to solve this in a different way, and how unique is your solution to it. I think if you spend upfront time upstream, you can save a lot of yourself from headache. So I mostly talk to a lot of my mentees about spend a lot of time upfront understanding the problem and really invest into that. And then at the end of the day, it doesn't matter what idea you have or how unique you think your idea sounds. It's all about execution. And these are the things we are trying to continuously build, at ProSpark in our journey. It's not easy. It's a lot of work, but it's a continuous learning process, and we're trying to do the best we can.
Okay. So it sounds to me like it's more or less the advice that you're giving is just, first of all, think of a problem. Is the problem, something that can be solved? Is it a problem that can be addressed that people want? And then also, you got to hit the floor running. You have to actually do something about it, because, that actually resonated a lot with me. When you said that execution is everything, because a lot of people have a lot of really good ideas, but not a lot of people know how to act on it. So I think it's just finding the right balance between thinking and executing. So on behalf of all of the people who are watching, who are also interested in entrepreneurs, what's more important in your opinion? Developing a very good business plan, from the get-go? Let's say you haven't started your business yet, right? And then you plan on starting one. What's better? Starting straight up? Even if you don't have a very well-developed business plan, or just taking the time to develop a business plan and then incorporating it?
Spend time with your users. Talk to your users, the people who are going to be using your product for the solution you're trying to solve. People typically, they jump into business plans because that's the traditional old-fashioned way of thinking, oh man, before I have a business, I need to have a business plan. Spend more time talking to your customers or talking to your potential customers versus spending time building spreadsheet or documents, which doesn't even make sense. At the end of the day, if the problem you're trying to solve doesn't exist, or the problem you're trying to solve is very small, that can really help save you a lot of time. So yes, once you speak to users, you understand the market, you understand your niche, you understand your target, you understand your initial strategy, and then you can take those ideas and start thinking okay, what kind of a business plan do you want to make? I'm not somebody who believes in developing 100 pages of a business plan, right? I believe a business plan that is conveyed in less than 5 pages is a business plan, is the best one in the world. Okay, it gets to the point, right? So you talk about What is the problem you're trying to solve? What is the solution? Why is the solution different? And how are you, how big is the market? And how are you going to execute? And that's why we have the scale and the customers we have today.
That is true. Wow, that's actually really interesting because that's actually a very unique way of thinking about it. Because business school, we're both business graduates. This is like what's usually taught in school. You come up with a plan, you make sure the plan has a good idea before you execute, because you want to make sure that the theory is correct. But with you with so much experience, having to build your own brand in a completely different environment. You weren't given the traditional fallbacks of knowing the space. You're not from Southeast Asia. You came here from the United States as well as from Africa. Why don't you expand to where you're most familiar with, like establish your business over there?
I've always said this, our focus is emerging markets. We will remain focused on emerging markets because that's where the need is. That's where the future of development and the future opportunities lay. And that's what we're going to be laser targeting, and that's what we've been laser targeting, and that strategy won't change. I don't think United States, UK need another e-learning platform. I don't think United States or UK is lacking a content marketplace for its workforce. I don't think those companies are lacking another HR tech tool. They already have enough of those. These technologies are now being precipitated in terms of flow by the ongoing COVID crisis. People need to be connected. People need to learn. People need to exchange information. People need to share knowledge. And we believe that we are focusing on the markets that are exciting, the markets that are still up and coming and evolving. So by doing that, we can try different things. We can take a lot of risks. We can flex our muscles in different shapes and forms, and we can learn the unknown. Because part of that is not just we're providing a service, we are also helping to develop those markets, right? So it's actually you create a market that has never existed, right? Mm-hmm. Or you help to shape a market that is too early, and you can determine the future of that market. I think it's exciting. It's absolutely exciting.
Wow. I think if I was stumbling upon this podcast and I was, maybe a fresh graduate from the Philippines, and I was trying to think of new ideas on how to build a platform that can emerge in different markets, this would actually be quite the goldmine. I think you mentioned quite a bit that'll help a lot of people. So yeah, that's actually beautiful. So yeah, and that concludes today's episode of podcast shorts with our CEO Alfa. So if you're interested in more content like this, and there will definitely be more, it's a good thing our boss man Alfa over here is so good at conveying his thoughts. So he has actually quite a bit to share, and he can give you guys a lot of information as well. So if you were interested in this type of content and this type of question and answers, a lot of things that could really help you out in the future as a business owner, or even as a life learner, I'm sure there's a lot of stuff that you can pick up here. So don't forget to like and follow this page. So we'll be dropping this on YouTube, Facebook, LinkedIn, and also soon to come Spotify. So yeah, just give us a follow. We're on ProSpark.co. You can find that. That's our primary website, and we're on all of those other platforms as well. So thank you so much for joining us today, Boss Alfa.
Thank you very much. I appreciate your time. I think this is exciting because ProSpark represents learning, and I think the best we can do is to share our experiences, whether they're good, whether they're bad, the ups and downs of our journey with the future entrepreneurs or anybody who's interested in the learning and development space. So this is something that is very important to me and very personal, because ProSpark is all about providing access and helping people to grow. And that's exactly why we need to use these vehicles to share about our experiences.
All right. So you guys have a great day, morning, afternoon, night, wherever you are. And don't forget, if you're ever interested in a learning management system that could spark up your business, look us up, ProSpark.co.
Thank you, guys.